What's new and exciting in your world this week, Ant? You can do it. Come on. Say something interesting. I dare you. Say something
I'm looking for
interesting.
my notes on something interesting. Here we go. I ran across a report by the National Low Income Housing Coalition. It looks at affordability of housing amongst minimum wage workers. They define affordable housing as housing that costs no more than 30% of one's gross income. For a full-time worker earning $7.25 an hour, that's $377 per month, what they consider affordable housing. According to the report, a full-time minimum wage worker can't afford a two-bedroom rental anywhere in the U.S. and
That's
can't
incorrect.
afford.
That's incorrect.
I'm just going by their numbers. And can't afford a one-bedroom rental in 95% of the U.S. counties. Now tell me why you think that's incorrect.
Because when I moved to Utah 4 years ago, I rented a two-bedroom apartment for $400 a month.
For $400 a month, yeah, this is $377.
Well, 400 is close enough, right? You put two people in a two-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, well, they're saying $377. But here's the thing. There are two problems with this analysis, apart from the rounding issue that you're describing. The first is that one shouldn't expect a minimum wage worker to be able to afford a one or two bedroom rental. The minimum wage is an entry-level wage intended for workers with no relevant skills, education, or experience. It appears that the National Low Income Housing Coalition is conflating minimum wage and living wage by beginning their analysis with the assumption that one should be able to live independently on a full-time minimum wage job, which is complete nonsense. When I was a graduate student, neither I nor any of my classmates lived independently. In fact, if you had only one roommate, you were considered relatively rich. Some of us had four. In fact, two minimum wage workers together can afford a one-bedroom rental home in almost half of the U.S. states. Three minimum wage workers together can afford a two-bedroom rental in all but 15 states, and those that you can't afford one in are the obvious states: California, Florida, New York. The second problem here is that the unstated implication is that the minimum wage workers are out on the street in droves because they can't afford housing. The truth is that 434,000 Americans earn the federal minimum wage. That's out of 150 million American workers, or less than 1%. Almost two-thirds of minimum wage workers are under 25 years old, over 75% have never been married, and only around 15% work full-time. While there are exceptions, the typical minimum wage worker is not a parent struggling to support a family. It's a young adult who's living with family and working part-time. If we lose sight of who the minimum wage workers are and so start raising the minimum wage to a level needed to support a household, all we do is to shut out of the labor market the young, inexperienced workers who are trying to land their first jobs and begin the process of building work histories that will eventually lead to jobs that will pay enough to support households.